could write all the scripts that I want, but that's not going to change the world. What's going to change the world is people feeling the message too. So, in this video, let's talk about how we can move past the dynamics of being held back by the establishment structures of power. And what is that? It means all of these government people and corporations who are keeping us down. The man's keeping us down. I mean, literally and figuratively. We're all groveling for these stimulus checks, and look what's happening around us. We're seeing people who are out of work, who are barely able to scrape by. And I mean, I know people who are personally affected by this. And it's not something fun to watch when other people are failing. You look back at the Great Depression and how many people were trying to survive back then, but we're in the 21st century here. We have the means to stop it. Scarcity is an illusion. It's only brought on by a capitalist system. And I'm not saying let's go to communism or socialism or anything else like that. But if we as a community, globally even, can come together and stop this insanity, we can move forward as a species. We can create something sustainable for all. And how do we do that? How do we create some world that has sustainability, that doesn't have scarcity, that has abundance? How do we remove involuntary homelessness? I mean, how many houses out there aren't being lived in? How many apartments are people getting kicked out of that people can't pay their rent? And what about food scarcity? How do we get rid of food scarcity? Well, just the United States alone can feed this planet 10 times around. And it's a well known fact that we pay farmers not to farm. So if the United States is able to feed this planet 10 times over, how do we do this? How do we use technology to create a society of overabundance? And that's just not for food, that's for housing, that's for goods. The biggest misconception is people will be greedy and just take everything. And that's really not true. I mean, I think people need to have a little bit more faith and understanding about why people are poor and why people do the things they do. From experience, I've been there, man. What is a productive member of society? Does that just mean owning a house and things and acquiring things? I mean, that's not a productive member. You're just contributing to a workforce based off of economic slavery. So, why would we need this workforce based off of economic slavery when we have the technology to replace it? We have artificial intelligence, we have automation, and we have robots. Um, Granted, the AI isn't perfected yet, but within 20 years, you're looking at a 50% reduction in the workforce in the United States alone. Globally, that's another question. Will other countries surpass the United States with artificial intelligence and automation? It's a very big possibility, figuring we just had 4 years of you know, a fool that didn't understand how countries work. And that's another thing that we need to really address too. How do countries work? And why aren't these politicians working for us? They're supposed to be representative of the people, but they're not. We all know what's going on. You know, both right and left, ideologies know what's going on. They just use different methods to approach it because they have different beliefs in how things should be. So, why don't we look into these methods of creating a sustainable world for everyone? And that doesn't mean, that we're trying to push any type of agenda here that disagrees with any ideology. It just means the agenda is a humanitarian one. And that should be everybody's agenda. And why isn't it? Why is everybody so afraid to move forward and create a better society instead of remaining stagnant and voting these idiots in constantly? People voted for Joe Biden because they were tired of hearing Trump's tantrums. That's the only reason. If you didn't have the political left backing the Democratic Party, and that includes everyone from socialists to communists that jumped in and said, we're tired of Trump, and even anarchists, you wouldn't have Biden as president right now. Trump would have won. People got tired of the tantrums. So move forward. Look into different ways to move forward. Community level stuff here. Let's work on community level stuff. Get stuff going in your communities. Get community-based activism networks off the ground. What is that? Well, food banks. Start a food bank. I can start a food bank. You can start a food bank. We can donate to food banks. You start doing that. You build your resources up in each community. Guess what? Now, once you see how much resources you have, you start letting the AI figure things out. If you have somebody to program that AI for you, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be an AI program. It just needs to be a program that matches, what your needs are and produces an abundance of that stuff. So people donate to food banks for free, right? That's kind of a place to start. So if your community has starving people and you have an over an abundance of food that was donated to you, guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be feeding the entire community, and that's probably the goal. And then once other communities start doing this and exchanging goods, that circumvents the capitalist system in a big way because people are not going to be going out spending their hard-earned money on food. So let's get into that. Let's get into free food. Grow your own food. If your neighbor needs food, give them food. I've done it in the past. I've helped people. Why shouldn't you? And that's what it gets down to. Ego. Wherever we're at in life, it was from help from other people. But for the most part, it's who you know, isn't it? So create a sustainable world. And how would it start? Well, donating your time, donating your efforts, donating your food. How do you remove involuntary homelessness? I understand that there is voluntary homeless people. Some people do want to live that lifestyle. It's a hard lifestyle, and they've just chosen to live it for various reasons. But involuntary homelessness, we have buildings that are falling into disrepair. We have buildings that are no longer used all over the place in big cities and small towns. There is no need for these buildings to not be occupied by people. There's no need for the power to be turned off in those buildings if people are living there. Um, there are plenty of people out there willing to help set up either donation networks to fund how to get power to these buildings and stuff like that. Or even, you know what? Bring them off the grid. Put solar panels on the buildings. That's the way we should be moving forward. Helping other people out, using the technology we have, coming up with solutions. There is no solutions for homelessness, involuntary homelessness. There is no solution for food scarcity. And, there's no solutions for having a sustainable world for the children of the future. It's all shit and it needs to change. And I think we can do it. I think we can get people off their butts and people can go out and start helping others and building a better future. This isn't going to be an overnight thing. This is going to take years. And hopefully, anybody in the future, maybe even listening to this, will understand what we had to go through. We had people who just didn't care. And, hopefully you guys do. Hopefully you guys changed. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. More videos incoming.